I want to say before we go any further that I only put a clip of this stuff on YouTube. I've already been suspended 3 times. They reversed my suspension twice, but the last time they said, nope, you've 3 strikes, you're out. So I was suspended for a week. And so what I do is I just upload a clip and then tell people, go to my other platforms, especially locals, which I'm going to take some questions from. I always post my interview guests ahead of time on locals. So AllisonMorrow.locals.com. If you go there, I'll just put up my quick little banner so people can see it. And you can put forward questions for people like Linda, and I go direct to them, direct to people like her. And it's your opportunity to ask the questions that you're yelling at your grandma over Christmas dinner about, and what Linda has to say. So go over to AllisonMorrow.locals.com. If you want to watch the full video, you can also see that on my other platforms. The links are in the description. But just a heads up, if you're watching this on YouTube, you are only getting a tiny portion of it. And that's for survival's sake, Linda, at this point. As you know, like we were talking about earlier, the panel that you were on for a sitting senator to discuss vaccine mandates has been wiped in its entirety. Really, you can't get the whole panel and see what people have to say, even though your government in the United States put that together. Your tax-paid professionals are holding hearings and you're not allowed to see them, which is just fascinating to me. But you got to go to my other platforms. Okay, so Linda, big picture when it comes to what you were saying with the FDA, like they didn't want to engage. Why do you think that is? What's your best guess? I mean, you're in the world of pharmacy, you're a PhD, you're teach this stuff. You're not anti-pharmaceuticals. I'm sure you're not, just eating tree bark every day, hoping that things get better for whatever disease it is that you might be talking about. You are like one of them, in a lot of ways, like you're one of them. And there's this cognitive dissonance that you're now facing. What do you make of that?
It's been eye-opening and alarming. I'm a pharmacist and I'm a public health person. And I've been doing health policy. I mean, those are my degrees, my credentials. And I kind of grew up breathing CDC and FDA and NIH as the holy grails of public health and research and all that. And I have to say that it's been interesting to watch the Food and Drug Administration, how it used to get blasted for being so slow and so long for getting medications out. But now I think 68% of all the approvals in the last year, in 2020, I believe it is 63 or 68%. Some very incredible were all fast approvals, fast track, accelerated, emergency authorizations. And I don't know, as someone who's sort of studied regulatory policy in the past, I think a lot of it has to do with that the pharmaceutical companies pay user fees through the PDUFA. Prescription Drug User Fee Act, I believe is what it is, but we just call it PDUFA. And I just think that has influence. It has to have influence. And I would say that the Food and Drug Administration is starting to straddle the line between being a purely regulatory body to being partly a marketing body, or at least an approval body. And that worries me. The thing that really worried me about the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, was there's no discussion on safety, on harms. It was all about efficacy. And I'm not going to talk about sort of the issues around efficacy right now, because I think even the statistics that they used, the metrics they used were not correct, that Pfizer presented. But even now we know that, safety is an issue, but no one's talking about safety. And I don't know why. I've certainly gone down some rabbit holes to try to figure that out. And some of them are pretty horrific. I like to think that we have an agency that's in disarray and doesn't necessarily have strong leadership, and somehow has an agenda, and everyone below it is sort of following that agenda. I've gotten increasingly dismayed at the way the Food and Drug Administration has dismissed its experts. We saw that with Adunacab. I can never say it, the Alzheimer's drug, where the committee, all but one, said it shouldn't be approved. One abstained. One VRPAC member abstained. Not VRPAC, panel member abstained. Advisory committee member, and it was approved. And it was approved in an accelerated way. So I think the FDA has forgotten about safety and harms. It certainly doesn't consider these in a lot of these decisions. And I think that's filtered down to the public. I mean, I study this. I work in this area. I certainly, you know, have no desire to take many pharmaceuticals anymore, and I'm a pharmacist in a school of pharmacy. And I think the public is also the lack of transparency and there's sort of these inconsistencies and having, advisory committees, experts being dismissed on decisions, and then having a drug out there. Once you get a medication or a vaccine on the market, it's really hard to take it off. And there just seems to be a real fascination in getting things out quickly at expensive rates, I might add. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of scuttlebutt about why the Pfizer vaccine was approved early without a discussion of safety and a total dismissal of experts and public opinion and things like the FDA citizen petitions, because more than one was filed. I don't know. It's very alarming to me, though.
And I'm thinking, who needs a drink right now listening to Linda? Right? So if you haven't gotten your Christmas presents yet, you can still order AllisonWinePromo.com, AllisonWinePromo.com. These are extreme altitude Malbecs from Argentina. If you check out
cool.
a never before imported 90-point Malbec, guys. Come on, 8,950 feet. Very rare. And then also we have one, the unoaked Malbec, at 8,600 feet, but it's from Argentina's oldest vineyard. So you can't beat it. It's a great way to just say, you know what, Grandma, I don't want to fight. Let's toast to something else that we can agree on. And we can agree on free speech. Maybe your grandma doesn't like it. I don't know. But after a glass of my wine, I bet she's more open to free speech. I'm not sure. We should definitely test that out. So let me know if your grandma drinks it and she comes around. But yeah, it's AllisonWinePromo.com, Allison with 1L winepromo.com. You get 50% off the wine and 50% off shipping. And I don't know, it's pretty good. What do you make of the media coverage?
Medical physicians take a Hippocratic oath. And so when I see the lack of physicians standing up for their patients and reporting vaccine injuries or talking about early treatment, which is absolutely possible and absolutely doable with coronavirus infections. I think about journalists. I said there must be a code of ethics for them as well, and I wonder about that because they're not talking. Mainstream media is not talking. Every now and then you'll have, like David Leonhardt had something come out once. I was like, oh, he's kind of coming around. And Atlantic has had a couple of articles that, they're coming around, but I've been disgusted at the lack of narrative and discussion around these issues because they know it's happening. I mean, there's all these protests, for example, against mandates going on in Europe and even in New York City and LA, and they're not covered by mainstream media. I think it's irresponsible. And just like, it's like I'm sort of like, who do I trust? There is very little in journalism that I trust. I used to be a New York Times subscriber. It's gone. I take WAPO just so I can get the headlines, and I get it for $1 a month as an academic. I'm canceling the Atlantic. I had it 1 year. I'm not renewing. I don't have any mainstream media. I don't watch the news anymore. I kind of wish I'd seen Brian Williams when he went off the deep end a little bit on his thing. I saw it in Twitter and stuff, but I don't watch mainstream news. I don't get my news. I get my news from Twitter. It breaks there first. And I usually get more than one perspective. And of course, there's alternative ones too. The fringy ones like Epic Times and all that. But I get a perspective that I'm not seeing anywhere in mainstream media. And frankly, I think of the sort of the failures that have happened at government level, and from the White House too.
Yeah.
And I think about the failures that have happened in the medical profession. But I think the reason it's all such a, excuse my language, shit show is because of the mainstream media. They have failed to cover responsibly what's actually going on. I have a colleague, and I'm not going to name his name, who had an op-ed piece that the New York Times was interested in. And he and the editor were having a discussion. And the editor asked him, it looked like it was going to happen. And it was about mandates. And then the editor says, oh, so are you vaccinated? I want to know, are you vaccinated? And my colleague said, my friend said, we don't discuss this in my institution. It's not your business. And he goes, well, I guess you aren't. We're not going to run it.
Wow. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, the piece actually got published eventually, but it wasn't in the New York Times. So you have this fear of this alternative narrative. And that's what I think it is. I think it's a fear. Yeah, don't get me going on this. Oh, Lord.